This is Geek Gab with your host, Dornall, and me, Daddy Warpig. We are back. Geek Gab for Monday, March 24th, 2025. And today we're going to be talking about Police Academy 1 and Police Academy 2. And we would have been talking about also Police Academy 3, but I didn't have enough money to buy it before the show. So, we're also going to be talking about, well, frankly, I have no idea what it meant. I read the show description and I didn't know. So I literally cannot tell you about the other thing that we're going to be talking about. It is as much a surprise to me as it is to every one of you. So what the heck? Why don't we start there?
Yeah, man, I wanted to share some gaming news. The anybody who got the latest issue of Cursova magazine might have a strange cryptic advertisement on the back, and it's an advertisement for the Living Urf Gaming Club. And what's interesting about and funny about the ad is there's no website or contact information or anything on the ad. Apparently, these guys just thought it would be a great flex that some of their, and it's a real gaming club, that some of their more well-to-do members literally paid for the back cover ad of Cursova magazine just to put their logo on it. Which is, I think, going to be the new. I think they've started something new, just as an aside, because you can just, do a web search and find out what it is they're talking about, what is going on. Anyway, these guys, the Living Urf Game Club, for people who are familiar with the show and the changes in online role-playing games, especially those named Bradford Walker or who read Bradford Walker. Hey man, good to see you in the chat. You would already know what's going on. Is these guys, and it's led by a guy on Twitter known as the Polyfamous, and he's been sort of a bro OSR, OSR adjacent, OD&D kind of gamer for a while now. He took Bradford's ideas and writings on the Clubhouse and ran with it. And yeah, they're on Substack. You can just find them. I'm gonna share screen for you guys watching live on YouTube or watching later on YouTube. Living Urf Gaming Club on. They've got they've got it all. They took Bradford's idea, which was to get a group of guys together who really, for the love of the game, they wanted to make it a social club that is focused around playing these sorts of war games, these online games. And you can see just they've got games every day of the week, different games. They've got like 7 different game masters doing whatever they want. Their core focus is on original D&D. Some people like to call it, D&D plus chainmail. They've got a few advanced Dungeons and Dragons games. They've got, you can see on the top left here, there's an article on running a war game in, the United States circa the Civil War, right? These guys are basically putting it into practice. They've been doing it since the end of last year. They picked up a bunch of steam, and like I said, they've got games running every day of the week, and they put out an ad in Cursova magazine with some leftover funds, just because they could. Because you know what, I'm pretty sure it's invite only. This is the way it ought to be. I think it's notable because we've sort of documented or observed. No, Bradford Walker's doing the documenting. We've observed that there is this great shift in role-playing gaming, and there's this groundswell of true hobbyists who they not only do they want to play these games, but not only do they want to keep out the woke scolds or the blue hairs or whatever, whatever bugbear is on your back, right? Um, they really want a good social club experience, and it's something that the whole world has been sort of trying to claw its way back to over the past 5 years. And I think it's a great sign for the future. I think Living Urf in particular has a bunch of cool guys. The ever-present Brigadine is running a game in there. Some other familiar faces from the Bro SR or Bro SR adjacent, right? They're making it work, and yeah, it looks like they're doing it mostly online, but that's what we need to show. We need to demonstrate that these things work, and we hope that people continue to take them in the real world. So that's really cool stuff. I think so. Does that answer your all your questions, DW?
Sure. And I just want to list a really funny coincidence. I'm looking at our show, and they have on the right hand side of it like all the videos they're suggesting, and I know they're tailored for me, but I still think it's a funny coincidence that one of the videos they're suggesting is 10 crazy people who were proven right.
That video sounds
And
right up your alley.
And I think that they will find in the future that among the crazy people who were proven right about role playing games and fiction in general will be me, but also the Pulp Rev and also the Bro SR. So, and I think I think the Living Urf Club is also part of that, because these ideas are spreading hard and they're spreading fast. And a lot of, I don't want to call them knuckleheads. Let's just call them late adopters with plausible deniability. A lot of knuckleheads who would not accept the Bro SR, late adopters with plausible deniability who wouldn't accept the Bro SR's idea when they were coming from the Bro SR are accepting them when they can't come from, Shadow Dark, or when they come from Harmony Ginger. And I'm not trying to be bitter about those people. I mean, these are good ideas. They're solid ideas. They really will make your game better. So whoever they come from, that's great. Because it means more people are adopting solid ideas that will make gaming better. The more people who are playing better games, who are playing good games, that means there's a larger group that will keep gaming healthy and will keep gaming alive and will keep the hobby alive. And you just compare that to comics, which is dying. Their sales are dying. Companies are going out of business. Stores are going out of business. And whereas gaming can be kept alive as a hobby, comics can't. And people are trying really hard to put things up on an indie basis. But even projects for best-selling authors are failing to get an audience, to where the only projects that seem really destined to succeed in Kickstartering now are either those who have a freakishly large exposure almost on accident or porn. I just saw this project yesterday on Kickstarter, and I know I'm going far afield. I'm going to try and draw this back really quickly. So I'm going to get this out of the way really quickly. There was a and yes, Simon Hogwood just brought up physical location of your online friends, 5% within driving distance. The more people we have playing role-playing games, the more healthy the hobby is, the easier it is for people to get together, in physical space. And it's more fun to play in the present in physical space with your friends than it is to play online. So the wider these principles spread, the more people we have playing the hobby, the easier it is for people to get together in meet space, right? And the better the hobby is for everybody, and the more people we can get playing the hobby. That's just better for everybody. So that's my main point.
Yeah, 100%.
I do want to make a kind of small kvetch, though, and I guess this is moving on from gaming, unless you've got another point to make.
No, go ahead.
I saw this project on Kickstarter, this comic book project. It's about vampire Snow White and werewolf Belle from Beauty and the Beast. And vampire Snow White rescues werewolf Belle from the evil beast, who is also a werewolf, but who is a big brute of a man who's been abusing her. So they go off and they get into a girl-girl relationship. And it's a porn comic by women for women. But they have 5 titles set in the Never Ever verse. It's got terrible art. They have 5 titles set in the Never Ever verse that are all girl monster porn titles. And apparently they can get funding through Kickstarter, but like authors who have best-selling novels who are trying to make graphic novel adaptations of their work can't get comic books through Kickstarter because they're not making porn. So the only people making money through comics on Kickstarter are either those who had freakishly large exposure or those who are making porn. It's
tale as old as time.
So comics is dead, other than the few indie people who have been able to make a living, or at least a hobby out of it, not making porn comics. And I know there's a huge war going on between different people. I've just stayed out of that area. It's not my problem. It's not my fight. I don't know who's involved. I don't know why they're involved. I don't know the lore, and I don't want to know. But I've tried to support indie comics people through Kickstarter as much as I can. And of course, I support Kursova and the projects that he's launched. And as you said, he just had another magazine come out, so you can go check out Kursova and check out the magazine. Literally the best um, business practices ever. In fact, Bill Willingham, who's a huge name in comics, he did Fables and did a bunch of other stuff before then. He's been in the industry for forever. Um, he said on Twitter just today or yesterday that he got an email from Kursova letting him know that the story he put in the magazine a year ago was now eligible to be put in other anthologies because Kursova paid for a year's exclusivity. And Bill Willingham said, that's something no other magazine he's ever placed a story with has ever done. Um, and one of the other things no magazine ever does is they never provide the author with a copy of the final edited version of the story that gets published in a magazine. So anthologists, when they go back in time to republish like H.P. Lovecraft stories or Robert E. Howard stories, if you look inside the anthologies that get published, you'll notice they have like 3 different versions of the story or 4 different versions of the story, and they don't know which one is the actual canonical version because none of these magazines ever provided the author with the final edited version. Well, Kursova does. So that anthologists in the future we'll have this is the final edited text as it appeared in the magazine when we published it, including all the internal edits. So that there
That's
is a
brilliant.
definitive text. And so not only does Kursova publish the best stories around, their business practices are far in advance of anybody else's. Their Kickstarters have always gone out on time. I can't remember one of them that's been late. And I have supported every single one of their Kickstarters. So I just think that anybody listening, if you haven't checked out Kursova, you ought to check out the magazine. You ought to buy the back issues, read the stories, and support their Kickstarters when they come up because Alex at Kursova is truly has honest policies that are above and beyond anybody else in the industry. He pays writers pro rates. I believe he pays them pro rates. And if I get that wrong, I apologize. And he has kept his magazine going through some very difficult times because for whatever reason it just hasn't hit the big time, and I think it deserves to. If there's anybody who deserves to hit the big time, to get recognized for what it does, it's that magazine and that editor.
Amen. Yeah, he's good people. He's real shit. I don't know what else to say. You said it.
So,
Yeah. Speaking of real good editors, real iders, I have a little bit more, not directly related, but I caught up with our good friend Brian Niemeyer. He's still working on his latest, on fulfilling his latest Kickstarter release, the latest book in his series. And I just got a sneak preview of the a weapon magic item that we'll be adding to the series. And I tell you what, he's been a delight to work with. And when you work with him, you really add to the story. You don't just come up with a cool thing, get a cool drawing, and that's it. But I can't share that with you. Enjoy this shameless plug, but you gotta go. You gotta go subscribe to his stuff. He's got his own blog. He's got a Patreon running, and he shares all of his works in progress with them. I can say it's really, really cool, and uh, I'm biased because I wrote it, but um, his patrons really like it. They get or they get early preview of his books and everything. Um, so I'm happy for him. He's doing great, and I'm really looking forward to the stuff he's coming out with. And now that I've seen some of it, I can tell you it's going to be great.
Awesome. And that is the third book in his series, right?
Second.
Second, okay.
Yeah. He's the first book was so large he ended up having to break it into two, and so this is the second book in the series. So he's got the first 2 or 3 books. The basic plots are plotted out, and so now he's doing Kickstarters and executing on them.
All right.
Yeah. That's all I got for gaming news, DW.
Yeah. So I was doing Twitter like I do, and somebody posted a clip of apparently is a clip from Assignment Miami Beach, the 5th of the Police Academy films. And I once again admitted that I had never seen any of the Police Academy films. And people on Twitter jumped on me. They said, "You have got to watch the Police Academy films." And somebody also took the opportunity to jump on me for not watching some other relatively key comedy movie. So I decided that I would break down, and I mean, these are, well, you call them classics nowadays because they really have stood the test of time. When you say Police Academy, people still remember what they are. And maybe not, maybe not really, really young people, but people who were my age or the next generation, they remember the Police Academy movies.
Oh yeah.
At least the first 2. And they came out in the mid 80s, 1984, for the first one. And they were really successful. So successful, they made 7 of them.
7.
And people said that only the first 2 were really good. I really wish I'd had a chance to watch the third one, because the third one had the second one had Bobcat Goldthwait playing a villain, and in the third one he comes back as a candidate or as a cadet in the academy again. So I wish I could have seen that, because that still had, Steve Guttenberg and all of the main cast was still there. So I feel like maybe that might still have been a good one. But anyways, Police Academy 2 came out just a year later, so they might not have given the script as much time to um, as much time to simmer
Marinate.
as to marinate as much as it needed. But if I were to give it just like quick um ratings, I started off liking the movie, thinking it was okay, and then liking it a little bit more as it went on, and then liking it a little bit more as it went on, and then uh by a certain point, about three-quarters of the way through, I started loving the movie.
Why is that?
it And this is why I wanted to do the police academies for this week. If you remember 2 weeks ago, and if you remember last week, how I started off disliking the movies and then got to dislike them more and more and more, and then got to hate them, and then got to hate myself and literally hate life by the end.
Yeah, I mean, that's a familiar experience as well.
The people who have listened to the last two shows will know that's exactly what I said.
Yeah.
This movie was the exact opposite experience. Um, it was just a lot of fun. They had characters who were funny people who were exaggerations of people. But then again, being on the internet for the last 30 years, I've learned that sometimes some people just seem like they're exaggerated people. So you can't really call that uh, unrealistic, because there are just some people in real life who are exaggerated like that. And then in the middle of it, you have Steve Guttenberg, who the character himself is a comedian. He makes jokes about things all the time. So he's the more normal person in the middle of all this kind of insanity. So it's character-based humor where the people stay in character the whole movie, and they have consistent characters and they have recognizable characters. Um, and you know for a fact in the real world that most of these people you think probably would never get through a big city police academy. You get that from the beginning. But that's okay, because you can just accept it. And if you just accept that and roll with it, the rest of the movie makes perfect sense in terms of exaggerated people doing kind of crazy things. So the movie starts with the mayor, a brand new female mayor of this big town, an unnamed big town. She announces this program to get more people involved with the police department, where they will take anybody into the police academy.
Oh boy.
And so all of these crazy people just sign up. One woman is small and she has this really, really high pitched, very quiet, meek voice. So they have to, part of her training is trying to make her confident and trying to get her to speak up and speak with an authoritative voice. Another one is this little bit short, skinny guy he is a jinx. He is completely accident prone. He cannot turn around with him holding something in his hand unless he smacks someone in the belly or in the face or closes a door on someone's thumb or whatever. Um, The main character, Steve Gutenberg, is just a loser. He has some money from his dad, and he just spends his life um, getting into problems and getting arrested for minor things. And he's been skating because the local police chief in his precinct is a friend of his dad's who's been letting him get away with it. But finally, he says, "You know what? I'm going to throw the book at you. You're going into county lockup or city lockup for 30 days, or you can go into police academy. And if you quit, you'll go back to prison." So it's kind of that thing you hear about judges telling kids you can either join the Marine Corps or go to jail.
Yeah.
So he has to go into the police academy, and if he quits, then he gets thrown in jail. But when he gets into the police academy, he finds out that with this new program, he's told them that they can't kick him out. So all his plans to get kicked out by acting up are absolutely null and void, and he's forced to stay there for the full 30 days of training.
Womp womp.
He's trapped there. They have the big football player who's just huge, massive, bigger than everyone else. And they have a number of other characters, number of other funny people. Have you ever seen these movies?
I might have seen the first one a long time ago, but I mostly remember it for the cartoon. It was a pretty big, what's it called, franchise back in the late '80s. Um, the gun nut Tackleberry
Yes.
was the most memorable. And although I do remember my favorite was what's the comedian's name? Michael Winslow,
Yes.
who does all the funny sounds with his mouth. Oh man, when me and my brother were kids, we absolutely loved that guy.
Michael Winslow is in the first movie. He's a guy Steve Gutenberg just happens to meet uh, in the precinct right before he gets thrown that curveball, and he convinces Michael Winslow's character to come along with him because they'll be out in a couple of days. He
Wow.
meets somebody there. And then Michael Winslow just does his shtick, and they have several little different sketches where he uses his comedic abilities with sound to manipulate the scene and make fun of people and set up little scenes. Um, and he is hilarious. And I will say this: the rest of the movie is great, but if Michael Winslow hadn't been in the movie, it wouldn't have worked.
I
Um,
believe that. I believe that. He's
he
easily the best part of the film from I remember.
he is absolutely what makes the movie work. So all these people, they start off as the lowest of the low, and I've been making this observation in the Pulp Rev chat, that a lot of the 80s movies were where things got turned around, where like the successful, good looking, um, wealthy kids became the villains, and the misanthropes and the misfits and all that became the heroes. To where even if they were doing like objectively really horrible things, um, they were still presented as being okay because they were being picked on by the good looking people with nice hair and nice cars and stuff.
Oh
And the
yeah, like
architect,
the infamous Revenge of the Nerds scene. Yeah.
right. Um, And I myself have traced that back to, I think the first movie I can find that in is Animal House. And so I think a lot of the movies of the 80s in Hollywood, if you make a successful movie, everybody copies you, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how successful Animal House was, but I do think that this trend in the 80s was a lot of writers copying the Animal House vibe. Because whether or not it was super successful commercially, I think it was really successful with a lot of writers. I think a lot of writers really liked it. I think it was very successful, and they thought it was funny. Because writers uh, in the 80s started to not be soldiers and started to not be lumberjacks and people who had been in, you know, really like super manly industries. They started to be readers and started to be. I'm really trying to figure out a way to say this without insulting everybody who listens to this podcast.
It's writers who were intended to be writers, writers who for whom they
Bookish.
chose to writing as a profession.
They were bookish.
They were bookish, but it's not just about the bookish and the reading. It's just like let's take it back to gaming. You know, um, one of the things that happened when computer games um, automated a lot of the crunchy aspects of Dungeons and Dragons, and people started playing computer role playing games and everything, and people started reading and writing Dungeons and Dragons books, is that Dungeons and Dragons became self-referential. That
Yes.
where it was all the future work uh, came from a place of knowing and understanding what D&D is and just copying that. Same thing with writers. These are writers who wanted to be Hemingway without, you know, all the life experiences that Hemingway may have had beforehand, or George Orwell and Tolkien, famous for, being actual soldiers, that sort of thing. They just wanted to be those people without understanding uh, that you don't force it. You have to live life first. Plus, if we're talking about the '70s into the '80s, there's a lot of cocaine, man, a
Yeah.
lot of cocaine.
So I think that second generation of writers who grew up in the who reached adulthood during the 70s, who were in college during the 70s and became, script writers during the 80s, really look back on, you know, all those misfit movies, because that's what the 70s and 60s ethos were misfits overthrowing the system and taking it down, and that just got kind of blended out. So having said that, you can see where Police Academy is in that sort of vein, because it's about misfits in this system trying to prove themselves and um, trying to, and then sort of the guys with military haircuts, sort of the straight guys. I don't mean sexually straight. I mean, that's what they used to call them in the 60s, right? The straights.
A
Those are the
straight man.
people who are on the straight and narrow path. Um, Trying to drive them off. They got specific orders from one of the police captains. He's like, I want you to drive these guys out of the academy. They're no good. They're no good cops. So here's the difference between Revenge of the Nerds and Police Academy, if you'll allow me to get scholastic here. In Revenge of the Nerds just win just because. There's no real reason why they win. In Police Academy, these cadets actually succeed on their merits. They work hard. They show people in their squad. They stick all the, people they think are losers in the same squad, in the same group, and a bunch of them flunk out. A bunch of them get eliminated. A bunch of them get run off. But none of the main cast do. They get shown to be Well, technically two of them do, but they get back when a big emergency erupts, and they prove themselves in a riot under fire. Like literally under fire. They're getting shot at. Um, so in a real dangerous situation, in actual police work, they prove themselves to be good policemen. So rather than winning just because everybody comes to recognize that nerds are superior, and I've recently watched Revenge of the Nerds for the first time, rather than everybody just coming to say, oh yeah, nerds are better than everybody else, they become good policemen because of the training they've gone through. And the guy who was trying to destroy them, who was putting them through all of these marches, all of these forced marches in rain, who was putting them through all of these push-ups, all of these pull-ups, all of these exercises, who was yelling at them all the time, who was just putting them through the grinder. All he did was toughen them up so that when this massive riot in the city happened and they were accidentally thrown in the middle of it, they were prepared to handle it. So it may have kind of come out of this, misfits win for no good reason, but it actually had and I don't know if this is accidental. I'm not saying this is, the writer actually had some deep insight into the nature of the universe. I'm just saying,
Maybe he just wanted to
accidentally,
write a good story.
yeah, accidentally, it had some depth to it. So it's a comedy with some depth to it that was really funny, mostly due to Mr. Winslow. I mean, but the other stuff is really hilarious too. There's a subplot about the blonde trainer who's just really, really tough lady who is nonetheless very, very buxom, and they get in some good jokes with that. There's a lady killer who is actually Hispanic, but he's fourth generation, but he fakes the accent because the girls love it. So he has like 5 girlfriends. There's some hilarious jokes in it, and it's a genuinely funny movie. So yeah, it's just fun, and they don't hammer you with you can see some of the things that are going on in the 70s and 80s and see where it goes toxic in the 2012s, and you can say, oh, like 30 years from now I can see where this, or 40 years from now I can see where this goes toxic, but it isn't toxic back then. It's just kind of part of the culture. But as long as you're not super sensitive from living in today's toxic culture, you can let that pass because it really is harmless back then. And it's got some things in there now that people would flip out about. It's got some material that people would call homophobic.
Oh no.
That are still hilarious, Joe. The homophobic jokes are some of the funniest jokes in the movie, and I don't care. People can tie me to a rail and run me out of town. I don't give a damn. They're hilarious. So whether you're on the right or whether you're on the left, I will say the stuff in there that you can say is quote unquote anti-racist It's okay. It's harmless. It's stuff in there that they would call homophobic nowadays. I don't care. It's harmless. It's funny. So yeah, it's a good movie, and I loved the movie by the end because it just kept getting funnier. And Police Academy 2, I liked it a lot. Bobcat Goldthwait does a good job, and I can see why they would bring him back for the third movie to give him maybe a bigger role because he did a great job in the movie. They didn't bring back all the cast from the first movie, but they brought back the major cast. Kim Cattrall's character in the first movie is kind of really, she doesn't have a lot of the color that the other characters had. She was there as Steve Guttenberg's love interest, so they didn't bring her back, which is a shame because Kim Cattrall in the 80s was all kinds of gorgeous. But well, what you gonna do? They had another Tackleberry gets a love interest in the second movie, and it's great. It's one of the best parts of the movie. It's just fabulous, so fantastic. Tackleberry, they give him a bigger part in the second movie, and he's just absolutely amazing. The two villain guys in the second movie are better than the two villain guys in the first. They have a new captain because it's their first assignment, so they get assigned from some cushy jobs into this brutal precinct, the worst precinct in the city. And second movie is really good. It's also really good. I really enjoyed it. So I would definitely recommend Police Academy 1 and 2. They're both just fun movies. And they're movies from a time in which you didn't have to go in with your shields up, worrying about getting sucker punched, worrying about getting a lecture. There are no lectures in the movies. There are no moral ground standing with people stopping the movie to tell you how much better than you the actors and the director and the producers and the writers are. They were just trying to make the audience laugh. Let me check the rating. Police Academy 1 is rated R for good reason. Language, off-color humor, and there is some nudity in it. And Police Academy 2 is rated PG-13 for similar reasons, but there is some brief nudity at the beginning, like very, very brief, a split second of nudity at the beginning and none through the rest of the movie. And yeah, I would absolutely recommend both of them. And people can say, hey, these are the humor is not cruel humor. A lot of the humor in Revenge of the Nerds was cruel or a little bit ugly. In Revenge of the Nerds, I believe that's when he sets up like a secret camera system in the sorority house. Am I right?
My memory's fuzzy.
Okay. So anyways, he does a lot of like really mean things. None of the humor in this is like cruel or vindictive. It's not as grotesque or mean. So yeah, it's They're just fun, lighthearted movies that are, appropriate for adults or depending on if you have teens, depending on uh, what you want to check out. If you want to check out the parental section, I haven't checked it out. I don't know if the parental section on IMDb is good, but I do know they have sections on that, so you can check it out. Um, there is some comedic violence because they're about police work, but it's comedic violence. It's not you know brutal, bloody, gory violence. Um, Not that I'm against that. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying
Dude,
in
we
these
love
movies.
violence.
Just saying in these movies, there's nothing of that. I mean, I like horror movies too, but this isn't one of them. So yeah, I I'm happy. They made me happy. I'm sitting here, my heart is warm. They made me happy. The last 2 weeks have made me miserable because of what I watched. And these two movies made me happy. And really, how can you put a price on that? Watching movies that actually make you happy to have seen them.
Yeah,
And
there's something to be said for that.
and I watched this second movie yesterday, and I'm thinking back on watching it, and I'm still happy. Just remembering having watched it, remembering what was in the movie. When is the last time you saw a movie that you watched it and thinking back about it the next day just made you happy?
I actually can't remember.
So I'm not one of those guys who says, everything modern is awful and everything old is good, because everything old isn't good and everything modern isn't awful. But, you know, man, it's been a long time since I've seen a comedy that just makes me happy reflecting back on and watching it. Um,
They don't
I
make them like they used to. Perhaps they should go back to giving writers a bunch of cocaine.
okay, we'll need a control group and an experimental group. You guys don't get any drugs. We want you to write a comedy. You guys will give cocaine.
Right.
Uh,
Another group will get a placebo. It'll just be pixie sticks or something.
Maybe we should go back to putting Michael Winslow in comedies and see how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, I have a feeling his shtick gets old, but maybe one movie every other year.
So, all right. I have no idea what we're doing next week, but then again, last week we didn't have any idea what we were doing this week. So, um,
Who knows? The world is our oyster.
there is literally nothing in theaters. Oh, I did have some news I wanted to mention before we go.
Oh yeah.
Uh, Snow White bombed.
Oh, did it? Lowest rated opening in a long time. Um, absolutely savaged. They can't even get a good review from like the New York Times. It's just that bad.
Everybody hated it. All the people they were pandering to hated it. That was well, and here's the problem is everybody hated the movie as it was coming, so they had to go back and they were trying to fix all the problems.
Reshoots, so many reshoots.
Yeah,
That's millions
but
and millions of dollars.
but they can't fix the problem that the movie was grotesquely miscast from the beginning. Um, Gal Gadot is too gorgeous to be the queen because there's nobody you can cast against Gal. Is it Gadot or Gadot? Gadot.
I think it's Godot.
There's nobody you can cast against Gal Gadot that she would ever be jealous of. She's just too beautiful. She is
Yeah.
literally one of the most beautiful women in the world. She is supermodel gorgeous. That's a fact of life. And I'm not even, people have been insulting Rachel Zegler's looks. And I want to set that aside for just a second because who else could you have cast that would make Gal Gadot look ugly? Anya Taylor-Joy wouldn't do it. You can think of all the best looking young starlets who could play Snow White. None of them would look less attractive than Gal Gadot. Just not possible. So right away they were in trouble. They needed to cast somebody else. Gal Gadot couldn't sing anyway. They had to have someone come in and sing for her. So they just needed somebody else as the queen. And Rachel Zegler was the wrong person to play Snow White. She's like Polish, Guatemalan, something like that. And Snow White is known for being Snow White.
Yeah. It literally gets her name from the color of her skin.
Now, people are going to call me racist for that. I don't give a damn. I don't care.
Yeah, it's just that's what you need out of the character. It's you know, her part of her physical appearance is part of the story, particularly the fact that she's nowhere near as gorgeous as Gal Gadot. So it's sort of a really strange uh choice.
So Rachel Zegler is very talented. She can act, she can sing, but she was completely wrong for this part. She was completely wrong for this movie. And reshoots can't fix all of that. They just needed to, so there was nothing they could do. And then they went ahead and made a confusing movie where they were trying to twist and turn and hit all these different points of, modern audience to try and please the modern audience. And then when that was obviously failing and people were turning against the movie a year and a half, 2 years ago, then they went back and tried to do all these reshoots to kind of shoehorn in all of this happy ending prince kissing her stuff, only it turns out to be like a thief that's kissing her and not a prince.
What?
It just didn't work. And so the people that they did the casting for, the people that they did this storyline for, they hated it because the storyline got all chopped up. So general audiences would have hated it. And then the people they made the movie for, they had to change it to try and appeal to general audiences, but the people they made it for hated it after the changes, and general audiences still hated it. So it was a massive bomb. So
that's what they get for being stupid.
And Wish was a massive bomb. That was supposed to be like their 100th anniversary movie. It blew up, was horrible. And Captain America Brave New World was a massive bomb. It has the singular distinction of not quite being the lowest rated Marvel movie ever. It didn't quite beat out, I think it was uh, Black
Was it the
Widow.
Black Widow, or what was that space one, the Eternals
Oh
or
no,
something?
the Marvels. Yeah,
The
it,
Marvels.
it didn't quite beat out the Marvels as being the lowest Marvel movie ever. It was 31st out of 32 Marvel movies. So, um, so that was a bomb this year. They've got Thunderbolts coming up, which looks like it's going to be another bomb.
Well,
They've
I'm
got the
certainly not
new
going to see it.
so Disney is just dropping bombs all over the place. Then they've got uh coming up, they have DC has their brand new Superman movie in like a month or two in May, I think. And nobody's excited for that, which means it's probably pretty bad. And that's going to be a bad launch for the DCU.
Good. Let them continue to set fire on money. Money on fire? Yes,
This
that.
this year has been absolutely disastrous for Hollywood. Everything has failed so far this year. And this is March. We're out of the January, February, okay, this is all the crap we rush out to get it out of the way. We're well into, okay, these are good movies we're sending out to get people excited. We should be having some hits in the theaters now. And there's nothing. Novocaine failed. And I like Jack Quaid. Novocaine failed. Just Ash, which just is about to come out or just came out, looks like it's going to crash and burn. There is just nothing in theaters to go see. And it's sad because supposedly there's one movie out right now that's actually pretty decent. The spy movie with young Magneto and Galadriel. Sorry, I can't remember their names.
Oh, Michael Fassbender and Kate.
Kate.
Wow, why am I blanking on her name now?
I don't know. She's in everything. And she's great. She's a superb actress, but I can't remember her name. Anyways, the real Galadriel. It's a spy thriller, and they're a married couple. And I haven't seen it, but supposedly that's a really good. It's a really good spy movie, but it hasn't taken off. People are just not going to the theaters.
Yeah, Bradford's only seeing decent stuff coming out of Asia. I don't know. Haven't they sort of leaned into just super cop style kung fu movies, which isn't necessarily bad, but I guess formulas are formulas for a reason. Yeah, really, really bad stuff, GW. Hollywood's a mess. Disney's insane. What you gonna do? Movies are almost dead.
I'm just glad I got to watch two decent movies that, lifted me up, lightened my heart, made me happy. It was a good break from the brutality of the last couple of weeks. Yeah. My mom's been watching a good show, and I may review that Um, it's definitely. I'm not going to say anything about it till I watch it and review it because I don't want to give anything away. I don't want to ruin the surprise for the viewers when I watch it and have them go, "What? You watched that?" But I've been seeing some episodes of it. My mom's been watching it, so I went over and helped my parents and watched it with her.
Well, cool. Hey, that's really good too. I mean, unless it's total garbage, but quality
No, that's the
family
thing.
time.
Surprisingly, it's not total garbage. It's actually pretty good.
I have a guess, but I'll wait to see. I'll wait to see when you're ready to talk about it. I
So,
think.
all
I
right,
think
I'm
we're out of time.
yeah, I'm done. I just new movies are really especially awful this year. 2025 has been especially awful, and it doesn't look like there's much on the horizon to make it better.
Oh yeah, this summer for blockbuster season, we're getting the next installment of Mission Impossible, I believe.
Oh,
That's
that
what
looks good.
that's what Brett says. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
oh,
Those have always
wait,
been
hold
fun.
on to your seats. I forgot. I have a big announcement coming in December. If you want to, you have to wait that long, but it is uh, undoubtedly going to be a record-breaking moneymaker that will leave deep impacts on the culture that people absolutely will not forget the minute they walk out of the theater.
Oh, please say it's a new Ernest movie with AI generated uh, Ernest.
It is called Fire and Ash. It is number 3 in the Avatar series.
Whoa.
So you can look forward to that in December.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah, the Ironheart series. Riri Williams, Ironheart. She's the kind of, what's that pinkish color?
Pink?
Pink? No, it's like a pinkish.
Fuchsia?
Anyways, fuchsia. Yeah, she's the fuchsia colored Iron Man replacement. Who is uh in the last it, Black Panther movie. Um, she's getting her own series on Disney Plus. That's coming out this year. You have that to look forward to.
Great. I'm glad you told me so I could look forward to it.
Uh, the Daredevil series came out. Did you watch that?
No.
Neither did I. Um,
Nobody nobody cares.
I'm really trying hard to pretend to be excited. I'm done. That's all my energy of pretending to be excited.
Yeah, let's call it a week, DW. It was really good talking to you about this stuff, and I'm so glad you finally got to enjoy the Police Academy movies. I do have fond memories as a kid. Um, I hope everybody. We had a couple guys hanging out in chat. I hope they go rewatch those, and I hope everybody who listens later, I hope you had a good time. And go gaming with your friends. Start a club.
Yeah. Um, oh, this is my turn, isn't it?
Yep.
All right, folks, we want to, this has been Geek Gab for Monday, March 24th, 2024. We want to thank everyone who tuned in live. We want to thank everyone who will tune in later. Be sure to subscribe, click the bell icon to get announcements as to when we're going live. Oh, golly. Excuse me, I had a little bit of water stuck in my throat. We are here just about every week, Monday, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, youtube.com/geekgab. Once again, that's youtube.com/geekgab. We're also available on the Google Play Store, the iTunes Store, and on SoundCloud.com. We are signing out for today, but don't you worry, don't you fret, we will be back.